Interestingly, new research from Sport New Zealand's shown that children are far more likely to participate in sport and play where a parent is doing it themselves. This is from the Sport NZ Participation Survey, which will be released in full later this month. More than half of young people say spending time with family and friends is their top reason for being active, and those kids who like being active with whanau are more likely to meet physical activity requirements. There was also a big jump, a noticeable jump, in kids' desire to participate when adults want to be active as well. Scott MacKenzie's play manager at Sport New Zealand. Morena, Scott.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, thanks. On the one hand, this makes sense. On the other hand, you might be thinking, oh, it's a bit naff to go and play with mum and dad, but the data is in, and there's no doubt that you being involved encourages your kids.
Absolutely. I think we underestimate how much the kids love having parents involved in their lives. Just as another dynamic. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's about us as adults actually understanding what our role is in the play, particularly if we want it to be child-led.
So tell us a little bit more about what you have learned.
Well, I think ultimately at the end of the day, there's a couple of three key things that really come to the surface. The first one is it's about whanau being connected. So the idea of intergenerational, because it's not just about the parents, it's about grandparents, korors, nannies, and the ability to be in that space sometimes adds a level of comfort and stability to the kids, particularly when they're exploring new ideas. The third one is about pure fun and enjoyment. I think there's something about the kids seeing their parents laughing and being relaxed just adds another way of being able to socialise, to be able to share, care, be emotionally in the same space. And I think the third one is, as I mentioned before, there is a confidence piece where as parents, if we're taking our kids into spaces they're not comfortable with, but being there over a period of time allows them to settle and really understand where their place is.
So give us some examples. Was this across all ages as well? And do you have any kind of examples of where the impact was really obvious?
Oh, look, I think the really good example was during COVID when everybody was in lockdown. I think what happened was everyone was allowed to go out into what I call their home zone. So it's like 2Ks around your house. And every afternoon, in my experience in Te Atatū in Auckland, was there would be hundreds of families outside. And mum and dad were just walking and talking, and the kids were playing in and around them. So there was scooters, there was bikes, and, what else? There's those wheelie board things that they play on and stuff. And kids were stopping, they were connecting, they were climbing trees, they were playing in the bush around the parks that they may never have seen before. And from my mind, that shows all of the things that we would really like to see more of today. And I think since COVID, a lot of families did change their routines, but the thing we just have to be mindful of is we've gone back into our more structured lives now of school drop-offs, sports practices, academic coaching and all those sorts of things. We just got to remember that there are gaps in those times that play can be, and mums and dads and whanau can be part of that.
It's not just about organised sport. It's not about having fancy kits to play with. What are we talking about with what play truly is?
Oh, look, play is about time. Kids need time. So this is outside of like I said, the structured time where we're giving them things to do or telling them what to do. That's where the creativity, the physical activity actually comes because it's innate inside them. We don't have to tell them to run. They'll do it in their own way because they're motivated. The second one is around space or place, making sure we've got creative, nature, handmade environments, lots of manipulation so they can move things. And then the third one is the permission piece again. So it comes back to that idea of it's not saying you can and can't play. It's just acknowledging that it's an important part of their daily lives and we should actually be the ones making time for them to play.
That is a really good point as well. It doesn't, as we said, have to be a specific support. If you want a specific sport, if you want your kid to get into athletics, say, then you go running. That's not what it's about. It's about what you're role modelling in terms of the importance and making time for the activities.
Yes, exactly. And like you just said in your previous question, which I kind of missed, I think, in my answer was there is no cost, no cost. We could put a piece of a photo of a stick up on social media and say, tell us 1,000 different ways that kids will tell us 1,000 different ways how they could use it. 1,001 different things to do with a tennis ball. Again, people talk lots about sometimes the biggest thing you can do is give your kids time. Well, this play is an amazing opportunity or moment in time that you can actually do that.
In terms of family connectedness as well, did you look in the survey at some of the broader benefits of you being involved, and it's not just a case of go outside and play? I don't know if parents still say that, do they? But go outside and play.
Yes, they do. You're talking to one. No.
Again, what are those wider benefits when it becomes something that is part of the family life?
Yeah, I think being physically active is something that will happen through these positive moments. And I think that's probably the starting point that Sport New Zealand will always come in and say, well, playing with your kids, and it creates environments where physical movement happens, cognitive development, emotional, social. I think about my own personal experiences with my daughter. When she used to come home from school, we didn't even go inside straight away. We'd go and grab a ball. We used to live in a cul-de-sac. We'd be throwing a ball backwards and forwards. And it was a physical activity, but at the same time we were connecting. And every time I threw the ball, I'd ask her a question, and then she'd tell me about her day as she was throwing it back. So it's multi-dimensional, these kinds of opportunities.
Really interesting, and it stands out if anyone has any doubt that spending time with whanau and friends is the second biggest reason tamariki choose to be active. The only thing that motivates them more is having fun, and thank goodness for that. But number two is to hang out with friends and family.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny also when you think about neighbourhoods now, the importance of neighbourhoods going into the future, I think, is something that we also need to be heightened awareness. So the more we can take ourselves with our kids to the mailbox and actually encourage them to explore from that as your starting point, and you just go along as part of the journey rather than being the lead, that's also a different way as an adult learning around what our environments are that our kids are growing up in. And we can also start prompting some things, what we call playful intent, putting things in place just so that they can follow their own noses. And again, I think the important thing is that the physical activity will happen because it's self-motivated. I always talk about players in the DNA of our kids in Aotearoa, and it's probably one of our advantages here. There are lots of places around the world, they don't have the richness that we have in Aotearoa, and I think we've got to do justice to our kids by getting them out there, and if we're the ones that actually have to be the catalyst to get them there, so be it.
A really good point that you make is unstructured play. Don't be coming in with a whole bunch of boring rules and regulations necessarily, although there's room for that as well at different ages and stages. But the very nature of play is that it's intrinsically led, right? It's curiosity. It's following a thread, not a path that's been neatly laid out for you.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of our country, I think. And if I think about the history and the concept of play and playful moments and experiences, like I could ask you a question instead of you asking me, what is your most memorable play experience? You will be able to give it to me in texture and colour because it meant something to you. And that's what our kids need to be experiencing. And many do, but lots don't. And to your point, it's the thread. It's like a pick a path. And every pathway will be different depending on how they're feeling, what the weather's like, using today as an example, but they are really resourceful and they will play with what's in front of them or what's in their environment. So, yeah, and again, the big thing for us at Sport New Zealand, that becomes the foundation for physical activity for life. And all the other benefits like really good positive mental health, the ability to connect and have healthy relationships, just as examples, come from it as a bonus. So that's why Sport New Zealand spends so much time and energy to be the biggest advocates in New Zealand for it.
You do talk a little about creating play spaces, as we said, not necessarily formalising it, because sport is play and can be play, but play is not necessarily sport. So if you're talking about creating play spaces, what are you meaning?
Oh, I think it's just recognising that any space is a play space. I think what the kids see through their eyes is just as important and compared to what we see through our own adult eyes. We bring our own bias to it, where kids sometimes have a little bit more purity to because of their lack of life experience. And so it's really funny. A triangle bit of concrete, they can still play around with a soccer ball and make up their own sort of kick around game in regards to it, because they don't realise, or they don't think they have to have a rectangle field, or they don't have to have grass. I think about many years travelling around New Zealand now, where I've actually seen the most fascinating playful moment. Kids playing tiggy with an empty Coke bottle, or playing a version of Bull Rush with a wrapped up sweatshirt thrown at each other as a tag ball. It's like, it's that kind of creativity and innovation that comes through these playful moments that kids will then start scaffolding as they get older, and they sort of use those foundational experiences and opportunities to be better, or to improve or evolve as they go through their physical and social and wellbeing development.
I'm having flashbacks to the old football games in the car park where the goal was between a couple of cracks in the. And actually, I'm going to bring back some trigger memories here, playing rugby inside with a pair of rugby shorts as the ball. That used to cause all sorts of dramas. The online world, this comes back to your recommendations now.
Yes.
The recommendations are 60 minutes of moderate physical activity each day for kids.
Yep.
And also spend less than 2 hours a day outside of school time in front of a TV, computer or game console. What is the nexus between trying to limit kids' screen time and use play, physical play, to make that happen? Can they work together?
Yeah, I think we've got to balance. You've got to find a balance. And I think the important thing around that is technology is here, and it's advancing so quickly, and young people are always going to be the earlier adopters. So for us to try and put our finger in that kind of dike to stop those, I'm going to say it's pointless. So I think there's a piece here around trying to establish balance between technology and the ability to play. So, for example, when my daughter was younger, she's 23 now, she was actually probably my biggest play mentor. But when I used to take Maddie to school, we used to park 1.5. We used to live in West Auckland, and I was one of those parents who used to drive my kid into Central City. And there's a long story, but cut it short. I used to put a scooter in the back, and we used to park K and a half away from school, because she wanted to play on the way on her scooter to school. Now, it took us probably about 20 minutes to do that. So by the time we did that twice a day, that was 40 minutes. And then when we came home, after sitting on the Northwestern Motorway, we'd have that little break outside by Threat. So I saw my responsibility to create those moments, because her days were so busy and so structured. She needed the opportunity to be active, to share, to connect. And the way that we did it was with me. So I was role modeling on myself, because I used to spend a lot of time on the motorways in Auckland as well, So it was a win-win for me. So, yeah.
Kia ora. Thank you. Scott MacKenzie. I think it's Play Week, actually. He's play manager at Sport NZ, so you can find more, obviously, on their website. And that full survey will be released a little bit later this month.